let's look at the anatomy of the upper limb or the arm. So you remember that this is part of the appendicular skeleton, and the humerus articulates with the scapula. So you need to remember that as being the shoulder joint. So we have the humerus, which is one long bone, and this is the humerus is an example of a long bone, and it articulates with the radius and the ulna. So this is the upper arm. This would be the forearm. The space or the connection between the humerus and the radius and the ulna would be your elbow. So we have an elbow joint there. The radius and the ulna are kind of interesting because they allow for rotation of the forearm because they have joints between them that allow for us to move our palm up or our palm down. The way to remember which one is which when we're talking about standing in anatomical position, which is where your hand is down by the side of your body, is that the radius runs on the thumb side. So you could remember thumb, radius, and the mnemonic device that many people have used over the years for this is Teddy Roosevelt. The pinky side of the hand, when your hand is faced down and palm away, is PU. So it's the pinky and it is the ulna. So we have two bones, the radius and the ulna, which make up the forearm bones. Next, we have the wrists. And it's kind of interesting, those knobs on the sides of your wrist, those are actually the ends of the radius and the ulna. They're not actually your wrist bones. So the wrist bones are called the carpal bones, and we are not going to talk about the individual carpal bones. And then we have the bones that make up the palm of the hand, which are called the metacarpals. So that would be the palm. So here we have the palm, and then the carpal bones would be the wrist, and then the phalanges, which are the finger bones. Okay, so your first set of knuckles are actually the metacarpals articulating with the phalanges. So that would be your mid-knuckle bones right there. Okay, so let's look at a diagram of this. So we see here that we have the articulation between the distal end of the humerus and the proximal ends of the radius and the ulna. So this would make up your elbow joint right here. And when we look at the structure of that, we can see that on this side, we have what is called the radius, because it's lateral. And on the medial side, we have the ulna. When we look at the back of this point of your elbow is actually the ulna bone. And so there is actually a hinge joint here. So your ulna has a U shape to it, and it allows you to, allows for this movement of flexion and extension of the forearm at the elbow joint. So you do not need to know the individual parts of the bones, but you need to be able to identify the difference between the radius and the ulna. So if we look at another image, a better image showing the radius and the ulna. So the radius at its proximal end, the end that is closest to the center of the body, has a head. So this is the head, so it's a flat end. This, if we were to look at it in three-dimensional, is a notch. This is the trochlear notch. And it is going to articulate with the trochlea of the humerus. The head is going to articulate with a part of the humerus called the capitulum. So if you take a higher level anatomy and physiology class, you will be memorizing these bony markings on your bones. Let's look at the carpal bones. So again, these processes of the radius and the ulna are actually what create these little projections from your wrist. Then we have the carpal bones. These are the metacarpals. And then we have the phalanges here. So we actually have the thumb, which only has 2 phalanges in it, and it is called the pollex. So the thumb has a special name, which is referred to as the pollex. Okay, and this again is in anatomical position because the thumb would be lateral and the pinky joint would be, in this, you can see it kind of here, the pinky joint would, or the pinky would be medial to that. So this would be the radius, thumb radius. This is the ulna and the pinky bone, which would be PU. So just a way to start to learn this anatomy in more detail.